Hello ladies, and welcome back if you are one of my wonderful subscribers along for the journey, and welcome if this is your first time stopping by. My name is JAKS, and this is where I share my journey through infertility, adoption, and parenting. Today we're going to be talking about how to talk to your boss about infertility and adoption. Our infertility journey started back in 2017, and at that time I had just joined a new company and then spent the subsequent 2-3 years trying to conceive and going through infertility treatments. If you want my full story, I'll link it up above and down in the description box below. You can go and watch that at your pleasure, but I am going to be going through things and just hitting on the very important points that are relevant to the discussions that I had with my managers at the time. So if you feel like some of the details are missing, go watch that video. Over the course of the 3 years I spent at this company, I had 4 different bosses, which meant I got a lot of practice at telling them or not telling them about infertility. And that's the first thing you need to realize, is that you totally have the choice of whether or not you tell them really specifically what's going on or not. With my first manager, when we were just starting out treatments, I kept it really vague and I said I had medical appointments or medical needs, and the company was really lenient on as far as flexing your time and all of that, so it really didn't disrupt my work at all. Thankfully, fertility appointments are usually in the morning and usually only for a little bit, so if I got online, at 9 a.m. instead of my normal 7 a.m., no one really batted an eye. That being said, things got trickier when I actually did become pregnant for the very first time, and we were supposed to be going on a team offsite, and we were supposed to go snowmobiling. And obviously you can't snowmobile when you're pregnant, and we were supposed to be signing waivers and signing up and taking these spots, and I couldn't. So it kind of pushed me to tell my manager way earlier than I normally would have about the pregnancy. That being said, he was really ecstatic, he was really kind, and understood that I'd been kind of forced into it, but honestly, great guy, and was really chill about it. But then, unfortunately, we lost that pregnancy literally the week after I got back from that trip. And so I had to tell him that had happened and I needed time off for the D&C. He showed a lot of compassion during that time and totally understood and told me to take as much time as I needed. Obviously, at that point, I'd also shared that we had gone through these infertility struggles, and I had talked to him on the offsite about that, and he was kind and knew the significance of this pregnancy. So, like I said, he handled that very nicely, told me I could take the time I needed, and sent a gift, which I think was a really great way to handle that. So, going forward, I was able to tell him about treatments and switch from that vague language of, fertility treatments. And so that was nice because then he understood the time sensitivity of it, and that's kind of one of the pros of explaining what's going on. I did a lot of travel for this position, and it was a lot nicer to be able to plan my travel around my fertility treatments instead of planning my fertility treatments around my travel. And my boss being in the know about what was going on made that possible. Around 2018, I switched roles within the company and got a new manager assigned to me. Luckily, we were on a break, so I didn't have to talk to him about anything, and it honestly gave me a few months where I didn't have to be darting off to appointments or planning weird travel stipulations or anything like that. I could just do my job, get used to my team, and that was actually a really good timing as far as job changes and fertility stuff. But you can go watch my story. But we ended up getting pregnant while on that break, and the team restructured, and I got assigned a new manager roughly the same time that I found out I was pregnant for the second time. So that was fun. Obviously, I didn't have the same repertoire with this manager. She was nice and everything, but not the same kind of personality as my very first boss, who was, really personal, really into our personal lives and getting to, not in a weird way, but he wanted to get to know us a lot. She was kind, but she was down to do business, right? So I didn't feel as comfortable, obviously, telling her, and there was no reason to at that point because I was pregnant, about, the treatments and everything else. Unfortunately, then we did end up losing that pregnancy and I had to take time off. At that point, since I wasn't really comfortable, discussing the details of it, I just said that I had a emergency surgery that needed to happen, that it wasn't, life-threatening or anything, but I'd be out for the rest of the week. And I think this is advice that I've given other people too when they've needed to go to therapy appointments or other medical things around infertility. You don't need to say anything else. You are not legally required to say anything else to your boss other than I have a medical appointment. That's it. After that happened, if you've been following along on our journey, which I highly recommend you do, there's a subscribe button down there. You should do that if you feel like it. If not, whatevs. But if you've made it this far, go ahead and like this video, as that helps out my channel quite a bit. At this point, we decided to move on to adoption off of fertility treatments, and I didn't share that move with my manager at all. I did have to get employment verification, but that was all done through HR, so there was no need to notify my direct manager, and we went forward with that. But in February of 2019, we did go live with our adoption agency, which meant I had to be ready to take emergency placements. And this conversation really was another example of her respecting boundaries, but also wanting to be really supportive. She was a very kind person. I don't mean to make her come off as cold at all, but she was just wanted to be professional above all else. And that's really what a manager should be, because they're your manager. So I let her know that, we had gone live for adoption, and she had a personal friend connection that had gone through adoption, so she knew some of the process, but she asked just enough questions around the process to make sure that we could make a game plan together. Because obviously, if I'm going to peace out for 3 months from a job, there has to be some game plan. So we worked through what the plan would look like if there were an emergency placement, and I let her know it would be, probably 6 to 12 months at least, and not everything would be an emergency placement, but we worked through those different scenarios. And again, she put emphasis on making sure that we were eliminating stresses for me, because this was a stressful conversation. At that point, we were much closer, and because I'd been obviously working under her for quite a bit longer, and so I was comfortable sharing that, infertility and miscarriage were part of our story and part of our motivation. And at that point, she opened up to me too and said that she'd had a miscarriage and understood that pain. And it was just a really nice moment of being able to connect with someone, even though she's in a much different place. Her kids are, teenagers or in college, and, I was still just trying, to become a mother. She still understood that pain. It was just a kind of a beautiful connection point. Yeah, the next time I brought it forward was when we actually got matched. And I said, we got matched. Here's the deal. This is when she's due. I'll keep you up to date as things change. And oh my gosh, you can go watch those videos, because things, as it got closer and closer to the due date, were very fluid. And so she was just really understanding that, we can't control this, and that's a highly stressful situation. Let's make work less stressful. And then right before I went on leave, literally I was transferred to him, and then the next week Evangeline was born. So I was like, hey, here's all the plans that I made with other manager, and I hope you're chill with those, cause peace out. He's like, okay, because he had a bunch of new people under him, and so he was like, fine, if you leave, that's one less person I have to worry about. So went on maternity leave, and actually came back to work for honestly a month before I switched to a new company, which frankly made it way easier to quit. Not that my old managers didn't all contact me and be like, what the hell are you doing? But it was really nice to come off that stressful leave and just be like, hey, new dude, I don't know you. You don't really know me. Bye. So I obviously didn't have to chat with him much. So those were my 4 managers and the 4 ways I handled talking about infertility and adoption through all of that. I hope some of that might have been helpful. Mostly this was kind of just a story time. Normally I don't talk about my 9-to-5 job very much because I don't think it's super pertinent for this, but that was one example of where these two worlds meet and you have to coordinate and deal with them. And I was very thankful that all my managers were very kind and understanding, despite them having very different personalities and approaches to it. I would highly recommend people to start very generic and then as your manager proves themselves to be compassionate and reasonable, go ahead and move forward to more specific things if you want. Or you can stay in that I have medical stuff going on realm forever. That is totally your right. Hope some of this content was helpful. As always, thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. Comment down below if you have tips or situations that you want to ask this lovely community. And until next time, keep on fighting.